Hello, good to have you. On Time with a Role Model, we are speaking to my senior first cousin. I call him the Julius Malema of Ghana's politics, Honorable Ras Mubarak of Kumbongo constituency. Sir, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you in your colorful smoke.
Thank you very much.
You rep the North more than I do, unfortunately. Sir, how have you been?
Well, it's been exciting. I've been good. We had a very long break.
Yes, sir.
To allow members of the NDC to conduct their primaries.
Yes, sir.
Which took place on the 24th of August.
Yes,
and since the primaries, we've been doing what we know how to do best.
Yes, sir.
Serving the people,
Okay.
and
Yes,
continuing with the cause of, serving our mother Ghana as
Yes,
well. Because once you are elected to represent the people,
Yes, Honorable.
it is not just your people, but also
Yes, Honorable.
all of the people of Ghana.
Yes, Honorable.
So your contribution to debate on varied issues are exceedingly crucial.
Yes, Honorable.
So I've been good.
Okay.
And
Honorable,
how have you been?
I have been superb, Honorable.
I've watched you a few times on your address to the nation.
Wow.
I mean, brilliant concepts,
Honorable.
good ideas.
Yes, Honorable.
It's important that young people are taking ownership
Okay, Honorable.
of the space and actually articulating
Yes, Honorable.
our views. So don't despair, don't be distracted by some of the negativity.
Now, I'm a chip of the old block.
Exactly.
I get imbued by you in terms of your toughness. Honorable, you've come to be known as someone who has a Teflon to do really difficult things. Against all odds, you stood in Accra, the Ablekuma area, you did well. You went to the northern one. Apart from Boniface, but I think you even led the way. You blazed the trail.
Yeah.
Honorable, we are discussing perseverance today among the youth. Did you have a troubled upbringing? Were you the usual boy in Kumbungu or Kumasi or Tamale playing around? How was your upbringing like?
Wow. I've never been asked this question.
We're actually profiling you.
I thought your auntie would be the first person.
Yes. I just said Ajia will be the first.
Then she can tell you what trouble I gave her, as a young chap.
Yes,
but I was born in the year of Ghana's revolution. I was born on a day before the 1979 revolution.
3rd June.
3rd June. So people have characterized my resilience to to events of 79, saying, I mean, once you are a revolution baby, then everything about you speaks to the era in which you were born. But
Yes, sir.
I'm from very humble beginnings, humble background.
Yes, sir.
Strictly Sunni Muslim family.
Yes, sir.
But I'm someone you could call very hard ears.
Wow.
Hard ears in the sense that I don't swallow things hook, line, and sinker.
Wow.
I like to look at things from a different perspective. Troubleshoot.
Yes, sir.
The fact that this is a party position does not mean we should all stick to it.
Yes.
If there are problems with it going forward, the fact that this is a government position
Yes,
does not mean we should all swallow it hook, line, and sinker.
Okay.
So I've been critical, and I've been blessed to have come from a very great family, both paternally and maternally. I'm a great-grandson of Kumbuna Isa, and Kumbuna Isa was the paramount chief,
Yes,
a great chief of Kumbungu. Kumbungu is one of the paramouncies in the northern region,
Yes,
and Kumbuna Sumani, I'm a grandson of Kumbuna Sumani. So that is a lineage paternally.
Yes,
Maternally, I've said it time and again and openly that our grandfather,
Yes.
Interestingly,
Yes,
your grandfather and my grandfather, paved the way.
Yes,
I mean, he worked so hard
Yes, sir.
from nothing to somebody.
Yes, sir.
And he imbibed in his children time-tested values, you know, values that they could survive with in any corner of the world, not just in Ghana.
Yes, sir.
You know, and it is not surprising that his children and his grandchildren are excelling.
Yes, sir.
You know, he, even though unlettered in the Western style, he was very lettered Islamically,
yes,
and he imbibed in our mothers, yes, in our uncles, in all of us, the grandchildren. Those of us who were fortunate to meet him alive. I mean, you come and meet Alaji or Imam Muntaka, and he would ask you to recite the Quran. You know, he would ask you to tell him things you learned in Makaranta, in Arabic school, and these were, you know, very, very exciting stuff.
Yes,
I'm exceedingly proud to be of the Muntaka lineage.
Yes, sir.
Exceedingly proud.
Yes, sir.
You know, and it is as a result of his prayers,
yes, sir,
as a result of his hard work, you know, that some of us are where we are.
Yes, sir.
You know, otherwise, who is Ras Mubarak, you know,
yes,
to be member of parliament?
Yes,
but our grandfathers, grandparents,
yes,
they worked hard,
yes,
and they imbibed in our parents that communal spirit.
Yes,
so we grew up selflessly being dedicated to our community. You know, the selfless dedication to good causes. You know, members of the family are champions of what you would call lost causes. I mean, causes that people would think, oh, you know, I just want to make money.
Yes,
I don't want to fight for the downtrodden.
Yes,
I mean, you would see my uncle, the Honorable Muntaka, for instance,
yes,
strongly on the floor of Parliament, championing for minority rights, championing for women's rights, and etc. And it is in the blood, so one can't help but live it. And I'm yet to meet a Muntaka who is not dedicated one way or the other to the community, to Ghana. You know, somebody who wasn't even educated, right? In the Western style,
yes, sir,
was made chairman of the PTA. You know, had all his children who were at Calais, then Calvarian International School, free education. You know, it was in recognition of his communal spirit. You know, so I've had a very exciting childhood upbringing, albeit in some instances
you had running battles on the streets, I suppose.
No, I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
Okay,
because I mean, I grew up in Kamina Barracks. I mean, I was born in Tamale Central. You know, my dad, who then worked at the Ghana Water Company,
yes, sir,
got a job with NORIP. It was a Canadian NGO. So we moved to NORIP village, and Kamina was just stone throw. The barracks was just a stone throw away from where we lived.
Yes,
and seeing soldiers train, I've always, to be honest, if you ask me what my biggest regret is, probably not being in the army.
Oh, I see. Oh, no.
You know, I've had great admiration, you know, to serve in the army. Sadly, I was told I was too short to join the army. And whenever I see the Honorable Deputy Minister for Defense, Major Derek Odro, yes, I tease him. Yes. That Major, but you and I, we are of the same height. How come you made it and I didn't make it?
Yes,
you know, and it's been exciting. I believe if I had joined the army when I wanted to join in 96, 97, I probably would have been a very senior military officer now. But Allah knows best.
Yes,
you know, Allah is the best of planners.
Yes,
so I am content,
yes,
and happy with what Allah has prepared for me.
Honorable, there's so much despondency amongst the youth now. You said you had a checkered upbringing because our grandfather wasn't a wealthy person. But you went to the UK at some point, pursued your education, came back and did a stint with the GBC. How?
Not a stint, a long spell. Actually, with GBC. I
It
went to
lasted a
GBC
decade or half a decade?
from 97 to 2007, for a decade.
A whole decade?
For a whole decade. So it wasn't a stint at GBC.
And at some point, you almost had an opportunity to work with VOA.
Yes. That is a very interesting stuff. I've always wanted to move forward.
Yes, sir.
So in Kumasi, when I was with GBC, I applied to work with the Voice of America.
Yes, sir.
I mean, growing up, we looked up to BBC, CNN, VOA as the highest of standards,
yes,
in broadcasting.
Yes, sir.
And every Ghanaian broadcaster wanted to either end up at the BBC or the VOA or CNN. My boss then, who was the regional director, Alhaji Amidu Chodi, I had tough battles with him. Tough battles, because he wouldn't. When I applied, I filled some forms online and the rest of it. They said I needed for my bosses to endorse that, to give their approbation. And Chodi said he couldn't see why, I would want to move to VOA. I mean, literally, because when I was in Kumasi at GCR, if there were 200 lectures a day, and it is not today that people get, text messages and WhatsApp. Those days, you actually got fan mail. It would be my fan mails. People thought I was faking them. People thought. So there were moments when he himself, as regional director, would actually intercept those letters that are addressed to me.
Yes,
to see if they weren't faked. And these were letters from fans all over, wherever the catchment area of GBC, Kumasi, Ashanti region was. So there were people who weren't happy with my attempt to want to
go
be
international.
Better.
You would have actually been the first to do that before Komla Dumo.
I would have actually been the first to end up at the VOA, but not
at the BBC.
but not at an international media house, because before Komla there was Ben Dochemalo, there was Elizabeth Ohene, there was Ofebia Quest Acton. I mean, great broadcasters whose names resonate with people who followed broadcasting for a long time.
Yes,
so all of them, the Elizabeth Ohenes who had joined the BBC in the 70s, the Ben Marlows who had joined the BBC in the 80s, and the rest of it. They were inspirational figures. Yes, I mean, you're a Ghanaians, working in GBC. Yes, you tune in to Focus on Africa or Network Africa, and you hear, this is Ben Dochemalo.
Wow.
This is Elizabeth Ohene. This is Ofebia Quest Acton. It was inspiring.
Yes, sir.
And all some of us wanted to do was to end up there.
Wow.
And I had a boss who felt, come on, just stay down there.
Wow.
So, and I'm very rebellious. It was either he had his way or I would have my way. I sought for transfer, which again wasn't approved, so I left. I resigned and returned to Accra and moved to Accra, not knowing where to start from in Accra.
Wow.
And I think I need to mention one of my friends. His name is Napoleon Alote.
Wow.
Right? Napo, wherever you are, he's like a brother.
Wow.
There's somebody I didn't know from anywhere, but in those days I'll go to a cafe where he worked to just browse, read the news, because you always wanted to stay abreast. When internet wasn't even popular, you had to go to a cafe to actually access certain things.
Yes, sir.
And I told him one day that, look, where I lived, my landlord wanted me to move. And I came to look for a job. I had resigned from my previous employment. I came to headquarters. They said they are not recruiting at the moment. So I don't. He said, Charlie, come live with me.
Wow.
You know,
and
just
that
like
was at Kwashiman or before Kwashiman?
That was at official town, Kwashiman.
Okay.
Just how come I got to live in Kwashiman. You know,
so
because
you were actually perching with someone? Or
I was actually perching with somebody because Napoleon worked at not far from Tiptoe Lane in Accra, where so it was a cafe and a travel and tour company. Wow. He was one of the attendants there.
Yes, sir.
And I would go there to just read and browse and find out and look for opportunities.
And how did you go in a V8, in a fully air-conditioned V8?
I'll join my Trotsky, hitchhike sometimes.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You know, and he said, no, I mean, my dad has a house in official town, Ablekuma North. Wow. You know, come live with me. So I went to live with him, and then I kept writing. You would send the applications here and there, and Komla, may God rest his soul. I've had encounters with him as well. Yes, I'd also tried to work at Joy. You know, there was no space. It was a man needed to survive. Yes, sir. So I went back to GBC. Because I had solid contacts and people approved of my work ethic. You know, the senior colleagues, great broadcasters. Charlie Sam was there, and if you are not more than 35, the name Charlie Sam will not resonate. You know, Charlie Sam, Godwin Avenego, who at one point was my boss. Said, okay, look, Charlie Sam, I think, was the director of radio. Yes, sir. He said, look, I mean, you've been with us for years. You, out of your own volition, resigned. Yes, sir. We'll leave your contract. Yes, sir. And because GBC is not recruiting permanent staff. Yes, sir. I'm like, hey, it's like going from from full-time employee to a contract staff. But I didn't have any choice. Yes, honorable. So I took it up. Yes, sir. And even immediately I went in, the approval ratings went through the roof. Yeah. Right? I made suggestions. I just, you know, one of my former bosses, Moses Japon, he was one-time director of television. He just left here a while ago. Wow. I was even reminiscing with him because when I moved in, yes, because I was used to the way, I had never worked with any international media, but I mean, day and night I was tuned into the BBC and VOA. You know the broadcasting style, you follow, you know what we should be doing. So I made suggestions that, look, GBC should run live news. Hey, come and see. Come and see. I mean,
and those times you were using OB vans, you didn't have backpacks.
No, we didn't have backpacks. No, I mean, in terms of the interviews, that instead of recorded interviews, invite the guests into the studio.
You suggested that to GBC?
Yes. And wherever, you know, stories were breaking from in Ghana, it shouldn't be pre-recorded. Wow. They were like, no, but what if somebody said something stupid? Wow. I'm like, but that is the news. You know, if you interviewed a minister and he said something stupid, that is news.
That is news, honorable.
They kicked against it.
Wow.
You know, and then I said to them, at that point, Yaoswadu was director of radio. I mean, they couldn't even understand junior contract staff getting your nose into something that is the exclusive preserve of
top executive.
You know, top executive. But I wanted to get things done.
Wow.
And I was in a hurry.
Wow.
You know, I was really, because my blood was curling to get things done.
Wow.
So they didn't listen. And then I said to them that, look, I wrote another memo.
Yes, sir.
That they should cover events especially within West Africa, instead of waiting for BBC or CNN to carry it and then GBC will go and kill it.
So you wanted GBC to open bureau in
Not
other
open
parts?
bureau. If there are elections in Liberia, what would it take for GBC to send a crew to Liberia to cover?
Wow.
If there are elections in Sierra Leone, if things are happening in Nigeria, in Angola, what would it take?
Yes, sir.
You know, to have people on the ground to report. It would even motivate the staff.
Yes, sir.
They kicked against it.
Hey.
So when I started my program, I said, look, I would interview my guests wherever they are live on radio.
Wow.
It never been done.
Wow.
And these were international artists.
Wow.
So I had an arts and culture program, I had a reggae program,
Yes, sir.
and then I'll call musicians. Peter Tosh's mother, live from Jamaica.
Wow.
I'll speak to culture, live from Jamaica or from wherever they are.
Wow.
And that was a big deal. I mean, bankers and lawyers and students and everybody was, whenever I was on air, everybody was listening.
Wow.
You know, even people who were not interested in reggae,
Wow.
you know, got excited that you could actually talk to Lucky Dube.
Wow.
And when Lucky Dube died, I took a TV crew. I mean, GBC would ordinarily wait for BBC to carry it and then they'll call it. I said, no, not under. I mean, this is my space.
Wow.
The person is a reggae musician. He's got a huge following in Ghana. I want to go to South Africa with a TV crew to cover the football.
Was your budget approved? It was 6 days as usual.
At that time, this must have been in 2007.
Yes, sir.
I had a very accommodating boss,
Okay.
the Director General of GBC, William Mpemdako.
Yes, sir.
He was appointed under President Kufuor. Very forward-looking guy. You know, somebody who also had smart ideas, who wanted to get things done, who wanted to increase opinion ratings of GBC. So he said, bro, Ras, go ahead. And you can imagine, I sidestepped everybody and went straight to the Director General. That is how I did my things.
No memos, nothing.
I went straight to the Director General. And in those days, I don't know about now, going even to, because the top managers were in a different enclave.
Wow.
You know, people shivered to even go there.
Wow.
I went to him, you know, said, look. And this was just a day after Lucky Dube was shot.
Wow.
I heard the news on the BBC. In the morning when I woke up, I went to work the next day. I said, look, we must be in South Africa within the next 2 days.
Wow.
The funeral is in a week. Wow. I mean, this is a huge figure. Everybody was like, it's not possible. You can't get approval to carry a crew. I mean, it is, a crew moves only when the president or the vice president is moving. You know, internationally.
Wow.
It had never been done.
Wow.
I said, I'll do it.
Wow.
And then Ampem Dako said, but we don't have the money. I'm like, I'll find the money.
Wow.
By that time, Theophilus Eti, he's still with GBC. He was my producer.
Yes, sir.
I'm like, Theo, let's go out.
Wow.
There's an airline here, Virgin Nigeria.
Yes, sir.
It used to do Accra, Lagos, South Africa, Joburg, Accra, you know, Lagos, London, you know, Gatwick, some routes.
Yes, sir.
So I went to Virgin Nigeria. You know, the lady, Sodiosei, Mrs. Sodiosei, very smart young lady.
Wow.
And I said to her, I want tickets for X number of people to South Africa to cover this event.
Wow.
And I want it tomorrow. She's like, no. They said, look, we've also been wanting to run some adverts on TV.
Yes, sir.
So
Let's
in
do a
lieu of, you know, us giving you tickets, you run some promos. I'm like, that is not a problem.
Nice.
So
And
we got tickets.
So you okayed it without even
I okayed it without
before going to the director.
I okayed it without checking with because what is the essence of being a host or a producer of a program?
Yes.
If you can't increase approval ratings.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So myself, my producer, and in those days, not like today that you have only one person.
Yes, you needed a whole crew.
A whole crew. I went to South Africa with a sound man,
Wow.
with a lighting engineer, with a cameraman, with a producer, and myself.
And I'm sure that was the first time many of them were boarding a plane.
That was the first time for many of them.
Wow.
You know, for many of them, that was the first time. They were embarking on an exciting, what you call it?
An external.
An external. I mean, some of them, like the cameraman, Mr. Shen, who's currently on retirement, he'd covered the president. Okay. So there are moments when the president is traveling to wherever outside of the country, because he's a GBC cameraman, they move with the team.
Wow.
But it was a first for an arts and entertainment program to just carry a...
Like, seriously, not a news and current affairs program.
Not even
Why?
ministers.
This program, the weekend program, the Sunday program,
Talking Point.
Talking Point didn't exist at that time.
No, Talking Point existed.
And nobody mooted the idea from that
Talking Point existed, but, GBC is a very conservative institution.
I know, sir.
So we got our tickets.
Wow.
Getting per diem and money for hotel was another issue. Ground transport. I don't remember who was the ambassador to South Africa.
Wow.
I called the ambassador, I called the embassy. I'm like, put me through to the ambassador. What? A TV crew is coming from Ghana. We want ground transport.
Wow.
We're going to be based in Joburg to cover Lucky Dube's funeral. Like, no, you can't come. It's dangerous. You guys will give us trouble. I'm like, we're coming.
Wow.
I think a couple of sponsors. You can imagine, under 48 hours.
Under 48
hours, a couple of sponsors came on board. Wow. And we got the money to travel to South Africa, cover the funeral,
wow.
Visit his home, talk to his kids. It was a beautiful documentary for GTV.
Wow.
And then we came back. And I said, look, we could do a lot more of these.
You didn't need a Lucky Dube dying.
No, I didn't need a Lucky Dube dying. I'm like, okay, let's travel to Jamaica.
Wow.
And I had slept and dreamt. Wow. I was doing interviews in Jamaica.
Wow.
Just like that. One afternoon, it wasn't even a long sleep, a siesta.
Wow.
And I woke up like I was doing interviews in Jamaica. So we wrote the proposals. We said we were going to Jamaica.
Wow.
I went back to Sodi from Virgin Nigeria. I'm like, okay, you've been helpful in the past. We've carried the adverts. I want more tickets to travel.
Yes, Honorable.
And so we got the tickets.
Yes, sir.
We spent 1 month in Jamaica. You can imagine.
I see. So that was how you learned patois, or you were trying your hands even at home?
No. I mean, I spoke Jamaican as far back as the 90s, because I got inspired.
Yes,
from listening to reggae music, because it's seen as the sufferer's music. I mean, the music of the downtrodden, of the oppressed, of the people with little opportunity.
Would I hazard a correct guess to say that is where the inspiration to help the Palestinians came from? Were you inspired by reggae music or by your Muslim faith?
I was inspired. I don't like to see any form of injustice. Be it in Ghana, in Palestine, I just don't like to see, any form of injustice. I mean, God has enjoined us in the Quran and in the Bible, to fight for the oppressed and the downtrodden.
Yes, sir. And of course, Honorable, I'll take you out of your comfort zone now. You had running arguments with the Israeli ambassador on radio on some occasions. And for a moment, I thought you were kidnapped in the Palestinian territories when you traveled there. Honorable, now that this aperture of opportunity to work as an MP for the oppressed Palestinian people seems to be shut, only for a while, and I believe you will come back to Parliament in the near future, would you want to continue fighting this just cause through ECOWAS or the AU or the United Nations? Have you mulled over the idea?
I think there isn't much political will. If you look at Ghana, if you look at our history, we have always stood with the oppressed. I mean, which country was the leading light in the fight against independence, in the fight for independence in Black Africa? It was Ghana that trailed the blaze, you know. So we have a history of being enslaved. I mean, some of our ancestors were taken into slavery.
Yes, sir.
You know, we have a history of colonization, and we fought and defeated that.
Yes,
and we saw how Nkrumah
yes,
spirited that.
Yes, sir.
You know, so on any given day,
yes, sir.
Be it Rohingya Muslims,
okay.
Be it, you know, Palestinians or whatever,
yes, sir.
Ghanaians should be at the forefront of that fight. We are each other's keeper. You know, and I've said it time and again that an injustice against anyone is an injustice against all of us. Yes, you know, you can't watch people perpetuate evil in the world.
Wow.
It has bearings. It has ramifications. Yes, and if there's trouble in the Middle East, yes, oil prices go up. And whether Efanho or Efanho, you know,
it will take a toll on
it will take a toll on your pockets. So, you know, yes, reggae, my Muslim upbringing, yes, you know, my inspiration from Marcus Garvey and Kwame Nkrumah,
yes, sir.
You know,
yes, sir,
have all culminated,
yes, sir,
in shaping my thoughts on geopolitical issues, okay, on global issues.
But you were the only MP that came out on the Rohingya issue. You actually mobilized us, unless maybe other MPs were working.
No, I was only MP like that.
Oh no, but this empathy for the oppressed seems not to resonate with other MPs. Why is it so? Don't they read international news? Apart from the flashing headlines?
Struggles take a while, you know. There are MPs past and present who've been passionate about issues of oppression against, you know, people of the world.
Yes, sir.
You know, but in terms of taking action,
yes, sir,
saying that, look, we must move beyond press statements. We must move beyond statements on the floor of Parliament.
Yes, sir.
It's not everybody who wants to get their hands dirty.
Yes, sir.
It's not everybody who wants to upset the Israelis.
Yes, sir.
You know, it's not everybody who wants to say it as it is.
Wow.
You know, and you can't begrudge them. I can't fault them. You know, yes, we all have our ideas of where the world should be at.
Yes, sir.
You know, and it is all democratic.
So was there solidarity on the quiet?
There was solidarity
on the quiet.
Especially when I raised it on the floor. I raised the Rohingya issue on the floor as well. The Honorable Bagbin, the Honorable Majority Leader Oseche Mensah Bonsu, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, Ablakwa, A.B. Efuseni, who had been a long-standing, you know, a champion and advocate for the Palestinian cause.
Yes,
you know, even when he was a journalist, a graphic,
yes,
you know, before Parliament.
Yes,
the Honorable Agalga.
Yes, sir.
You know, these were all comrades, you know, who rallied behind, you know, the attempts to bring the issue of the attempt to exterminate, yes, you know, of the massacre, of the pogrom, yes, against Rohingyas to the fore.
Have you been blacklisted by the U.S. State Department, sir, because of your vociferous, you know, protestation?
No, the thing is, Banda Kodai. So if I have no business in Europe, I don't travel to Europe. If I have no business in the US, I don't travel to the US. All my trips to the US have been official. All my trips, about 8 trips to the US, have all been
post the Rohingya demonstration.
Since we left the government, I haven't been to the US. You know, I'm not one of those MPs who, you know, and no disrespect to MPs who want to, you know, spend their hard-earned money in the US. But yes, I believe in domestic tourism.
And all the babies, I can see their pictures. They were born here.
All my
they
kids,
were born in Ghanaian hospitals.
All my kids were born here in Ghanaian hospital. My eldest son, Mohammed, he was born in Konfanochi Teaching Hospital
in Kumasi.
Selma was born at Kolebu, here in Accra. Aliyah over there was born at Leicester. So, I believe in... Look, we've got to build Ghana. We have to build Ghana.
Yes, sir.
I don't subscribe to officials, whether opposition officials or government officials, traveling abroad for medical whatever.
Oh no, but then you're a typical dolphin guy. So when you have cocoa, your wife gathers some herbs, right?
It's because, you see, it is the only way we can help Africa.
Wow.
It is the only way we can help Africa.
Wow.
Look at the way people die to...
When was your first animal now?
Here in Ghana.
Yeah, they are real,
Here in Ghana, yes. Here in Ghana, Mole National Park.
Ah, with the elephants.
With elephants. Because we've got to do it for Ghana. We've got to do it for Africa. Why was this lady, what's her name? Dr. Mrs. Chihumbori Kwao asked to leave her job.
Wow.
She was the AU permanent representative to the US. She'd been speaking, she'd been very vocal about Africans not trading amongst themselves. Look at the barriers, look at the borders. I mean, the ECOWAS, for instance, has been talking about the ECO since I was in secondary school. I first read about the ECO in a magazine when I was in secondary school.
Wow.
And this was 92, 93, 94.
Wow.
We are in 2019.
Wow.
That vision of having a common currency has still not even materialized. For some of us, this struggle is about our people, not about us. If you live for yourself, you live in vain.
Wow.
If you live for others, you live forever. And that is how come Nkrumah till date is being mentioned. That is how come people miss him.
Yes, sir.
And I think politicians from this part of the world should be a little more selfless, should think about the nation. Because if we are not patronizing the hospitals, right?
Yes, sir.
If the minister's wife does not go to the hospital to see the conditions, if the minister himself doesn't get admitted, or the MP doesn't get admitted to a local hospital,
yes, sir,
how would he fight for more funding?
Yes, sir.
For the NHIS? Yes, because the issues would be... a lot of us are too removed from reality.
Yes, sir. No problem.
So they are coughing. They want to go to. They want to go to Europe or America. They get a cut. They want to. I mean, literally.
Wow.
No disrespect to anyone. It is their money. They determine how they want to spend it. But I think we can do the next generation.
Yes, sir.
We can do the children we're giving birth to.
Yes, sir.
A lot of good.
Yes, sir.
If we make this country great and strong.
Honorable Ras Mubarak, Honorable, this is just the first of a series of engagements we will have with the Honorable MP. And Honorable, in closing, you would look into the camera. There's a young guy who has just finished school. He's not been employed. And there's a lot of despondency. What will you say to them? Honorable was a picture in Accra for some time. Honorable, motivate us in a minute.
Don't give up. One more step. One more knock. And I believe God will make a way. There are a lot of people who think it is by dint of their hard work. Yes, we must work hard. But we must also pray a lot. Prayer without ceasing. So work as if it depends on you, because your success actually depends on you. but pray as if it depends on God, because really and truly it actually depends on God. I mean, you, the person watching, know how many people, or perhaps yourself, you work harder than your colleagues. Maybe they are prosperous than you. So it is not just our hard work, because our hard work alone cannot give us prosperity. It is the grace of God. I mean, I am in this chair by the grace of God. I work my socks off, but it is by the grace of God. I pray hard. So work hard, pray hard. I'll tell you a story about my first job at GBC. When I applied, I did my service there, and I wanted to be retained. It was, GBC is not recruiting. And after service, they just asked us to stop coming. They asked us to stop coming. I'm like, okay, what if I could go back and tell them I want to volunteer? I'm not a salary, just let me volunteer so that I can gain some experience. Because in this job, they ask you of work experience. Now, how do you come by that work experience if you've never worked in your life? And that is why when I was head of the youth authority, I even championed this, that we need to move away from that narrative, because young people can't get a leg in the door if we don't give them an opportunity. But young people must as well take it upon themselves to ask for volunteering opportunities. You are a graduate, you hold a diploma, you hold a degree, you are knocking at doors, they are not recruiting. One day tell them that, look, okay, I'll come and do it for free. God, you will survive. As for the lorry fare to go and volunteer, God will make a way. And we've all done it. I mean, trot from official town to, God knows the number of times. God knows the number of times I'd had to, even when I was working and my salary wasn't even enough. When I moved from being a full-time worker at Kumasi to all of a sudden being a contract staff, and the salary wasn't enough. There were moments when I had to walk from Kanda to Circle and then pick a trot to official town. Because you weigh to pick a vehicle, and then you definitely would not reach your destination. There are moments when you eat once in a day, and or moments when you pretend as if you were actually you're actually fasting, but in reality you actually didn't have money. And I've lived it. Whether in Tamale when I started volunteering, I would go to work with my sister's bicycle. That is, if she didn't go to school. My parents had bought bicycle for my siblings who were still in school, and their school was a bit far from where we lived. So on days that they were going for afternoon shifts and I had to go for a morning shift at work, I would use their bicycle to commute. And days when they were to go to work, I would actually walk from Jisonaili, where we lived, to Radio Savannah, and that was quite a distance. In Kumasi, I mean, it's been by the grace of God, but it's also been by dint of hard work. And if you know me too well, you know that I'm a fighter, right? So when I ran for MP in Ablekuma North, primaries, everybody said, no, you're not even going to get past the primary. That didn't, discourage me. I ran against all odds, won the primary, put up a spirited campaign for the main election and lost. We didn't give up. In Kumbungu, they said you didn't even live there, even though your great-grandfather was paramount chief. Both parents are from Kumbungu. Alhaji Muntaka is from a place called Blong, our grandfather, which is in Kumbungu constituency. And maternally and paternally, both of our parents are from there. I didn't live there. So people didn't give me a chance. But we worked hard and did things that that endeared us. That's the word. That endeared us to the people. And I felt I was a worthy representative, and that is how come we won the primary massively in 2015 and won the elections massively, you know, against all odds. And we're not giving up. I haven't made up my mind whether or not I want to come back after 2020. I'm leaving all options open. But the thing is focus. Whatever you want to do, focus and prepare for it. You know, as a broadcaster, you should see my old books in broadcasting. As a politician, whether at home or here in my office, every book you see here in my small library is on politics. Because you need to learn from people who have been successful. We haven't reached there yet. I'm not there yet. So I was even surprised when you said, you know, you were... No, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I also had to read from, you know, Eisenhower, Obama, you know, Gorbachev, even Didier Drogba, Alex Ferguson. There are really good lessons from his memoir on leadership. You know, Margaret Thatcher, Jack Straw, Nelson Mandela. These are all people who have either been MPs or been ministers.
And you have a whole collection on Sahih al-Bukhari.
And I have a whole collection. Because knowledge is actually power. You know, there's a lot of ignorance. So we should seek knowledge wherever we find knowledge. So whatever you want to do, if you want to be an accountant, learn everything in accounting. If you want to be a broadcaster, learn from the masters. If you want to be a politician, you know, all of these people have seen it all and done it all. Some have been cabinet ministers for 18 years. You know, some have been presidents. You know, who better to learn it from than? So we are also learning. And I'm sure this little story will also, the story of, you know, there is a plantain seller at GBC, you know, just at the bus stop. One of these days, I've stopped there a couple of times, but she couldn't even recognize me, you know, under the trees, just to buy plantain and to see how she's doing and to actually tip her, you know, maybe I'll buy 2 cedis plantain and tell her to keep the change, you know, because in my...
People think you are that about. They said this fresh MP. They're telling us you walked from Canada to say,
oh, I mean,
believe it.
plenty times. So many times. Wow. So many times.
Wow.
So many times, you know. And Alhamdulillah.
You've come a long way, Honorable.
We're not there yet. God has been good.
Honorable says he's still mulling over staging a comeback to Parliament or not. And in the meantime, he would spend some quiet time with family and focus on the next